This is the test review for Module 2. We're going to look at 2.1. We're going to focus on slope here. To begin with, we've got a list here of different objectives for the whole unit, which lesson they were, and where you can find them on YouTube. Probably easier to subscribe to me or follow me on YouTube. If you search Graham Bagshaw, you'll be able to find me, and Module 2, and it'll clearly be listed as Algebra 1 as well. You might well need a Desmos calculator. You can either Google that, or you can go check out the link there at the bottom of the page as well. So before we start, just a few notes to remind us about the different types of slope that we have. Positive slope, which goes upwards as we go left to right, and negative slope, which goes down as we go left to right. And that's useful for often picking out multiple choice answers. If we see this type of slope and we see negative answers, we know we can ignore those. Or similarly, if we see positive answers for this type of slope, we know we can ignore those as well. Horizontal lines and vertical lines, which have zero slope and undefined slope, respectively. And I put the words Hoy and Vux here because these are really important to help us remember. When we see the horizontal, the H tells us to think of the word Hoy, and the middle letter, I know it looks like an O, but it's really a zero. That tells you what the slope's going to be. Or when you see a vertical line, this word Vux, the middle letter, V for vertical, the middle letter U reminds us it's going to be U for undefined as well. And Hoy and Vux says three cases when we're really going to use that. If you see the words horizontal or vertical, you should certainly think of those two words. And if you see a picture, like we did just above here, you should be thinking of those words as well. And if you see an equation with only one letter, so for example, x equals 2, I'm thinking of the word that has the x in it, so I know this is undefined slope, and it would be a vertical line if I was to graph this. Or y equals 3, I think of that other word Hoy, so I know it's a horizontal line with slope 0 if I was to graph this. But not lines like y equals 2x plus 5, because they have an x and a y in. So keep an eye out for those ones, because they're going to pop up periodically throughout this test. So first question is, find the slope between these 2 points. And as a reminder, if you want to enter a fraction, you've got to use the slash symbol, which has got the question mark above it on your keyboard. And this one's no multiple choice, so you're just going to type the answer in here. So first of all, I've actually done this by the formula, because it says you can use the formula or you can graph. So we'll come to the graph moment in a second. So I wrote out the formula and labeled my points x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you just substitute each of these numbers in. So y2 would be 6, y1 would be 8, so I'd have 6 minus 8 on the top of my fraction. On the bottom of my fraction, x2 is negative 4, and x1 is 5. We then work out what that gives us, and then 2 negatives when we divide will give us a positive, so we'd actually have an answer of 2/9. Now, the advantage of graphing this is, once you've graphed these 2 points, negative 4, 6 being negative 4 on the x-axis, and then 6 on the y-axis, you see it's level with 6 here, and 5, 8, 5 on the x-axis, and 8 on the y-axis, you can see this is 8 here, is that if you were to connect this up straight away, you can actually see this as positive slope straight away. So that can be a useful tool, for particularly when you're taking a multiple choice test to find out. Now, it might not be super easy to see from here, but we're going to try counting some squares, and let's see how many squares we have to do. So I'm using rise over run here. So I start from the dot on the left, and I've certainly got to go up to go level with this dot here. So I'm going to go up 1, up 2, and then I'm going to go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 squares, and now you can see why it's 2 over 9, rise of 2, and a run of 9. So we can use that as our little check as well while we're doing this question. Use the slope formula or graph to find the slope. Well, I'm not going to use the formula for this one because I can see from this picture straight away this is a vertical line, so I'm thinking of that word earlier we talked about, VUX. So I'm going to go straight away with undefined. If you did do the formula, you'd end up with negative 4 over 0, and if you divide that on your calculator, it will say error, and that's why the answer is undefined, because it's none of these numbers here. For this one here, I'm going to have to do the counting of squares. So first of all, I can see this as positive slope because it's going upwards, so I know it's not negative 2. And then I can just try each of these answers in turn if necessary. 1/2 means that, start from the y-intercept, means that I go up 1 square and then right 2 squares. And the idea is you're supposed to get back to the line if this is the correct slope. So this is clearly not a slope of 1/2. If you have a single number like we have here for 2 and 3, you really want to put it over 1. So write 2 as 2 over 1, 3 as 3 over 1. 2 divided by 1 is, of course, 2. But the idea is you introduce a rise and a run number. So 2 over 1, I'm going to start from the y-intercept again. I rise 2 squares, and then I run 1 square, and it puts me straight back on the line, so I know that's the correct answer. Whereas if I try 3 up 3 squares across 1 square, you can see that I'm not on the line anymore. So the answer for that one should be 2. Find the slope for the horizontal or vertical line. Well, as I know this is horizontal, I'm just going to use my word straight away. Hoy, H-O-Y, and the middle one of that is an O or 0. So put the number 0 here. Don't write the word, or else it won't recognize what that is. Finding slopes from equations. Mainly we want to focus on lesson 2.2, we looked at slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where the number that goes with the x is the slope, and the other number, which doesn't have the x, is the y-intercept. If an equation doesn't start with y equals, then you're going to make it start with y equals. So m is the slope, that's how many x's there are. B is the y-intercept, the number that doesn't have the x with it. So for an equation like this, as it starts with y equals, then I know the number that goes with the x is the slope. Now, there is actually no number here at the start, so it's very tempting to want to put 0. We have to remember that x means 1x, and as there's a negative sign here as well, that actually means that the slope would be -1. And as you enter it, you'll be able to click and check your answer. Also, it asks you to find the y-intercept as well, so that's the number without the x, so +3. And you just need to enter the 3. You don't need to put the positive sign there as well. Now, for questions that are not in slope-intercept form, you can try and rearrange them by hand by bringing things to the other side, like move the 3x to the side so it becomes 12 minus 3x, and then divide everything by -4 so it just says y equals, and then figuring out which these ones are. But we can also use our technology to help us as well for questions like this. So if we use our Desmos calculator, I actually typed this one in and I graphed it. And I wrote down my multiple choice answers here so we can see. Well, first thing I notice is the y-intercept is -3. This one has a y-intercept of -3, and this one does as well. So I know it's not these two answers because these don't have the correct intercept. And also just looking at this picture, I can see this as positive slope. So I know answer choice A must be wrong as well. So another advantage of using Desmos to actually look at the slopes. So we know it's this answer. Just to confirm why though, if I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To get from one point to another, 6 over 8, if you simplify, is 3 over 4. Or if you want to check just from the picture, you could just go up 3 and across 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see if I go 3 up and 4 across, I do indeed get back to the line. So answer choice D would be the correct one for this question. Once again, we got one in standard form, so be careful you don't just pick the x here, because it's got to start with y equals if you want to pick the number in front of the x. So I can use Desmos again to help me. Notice this time no multiple choice answers, so I'm going to have to work a little harder for this one. So I typed in the graph, and then from here I can count the slope of the squares to find the slope. So to get from here to here, I've got to go down 2, which is why it says -2 here, and then I've got to go 5 to the right. So 5 here, so the slope would be -2/5. And the y-intercept is just 2, as you can see from the picture. To get these to appear, you just have to click on the intercept a couple of times, and then this will appear so you can see it easily. Although you could probably see the 2 here fairly easily as well. And that actually finishes it for this first section. So that's all the different things we have to do for graphs in terms of slope. We have to be able to find a slope using a formula or by typing in the points in Desmos and counting squares. We have to be able to do it from the picture, and we have to be able to do it from an equation as well. If it's not in slope-intercept form, go ahead, use Desmos, and that'll make your life a much easier.